皆さんこんにちは。このパートでは英語のライティングの基本原則についてマルコム先生が解説してくれます。今回のトピックは冠詞と無冠詞、アポストロフィー、大文字、IE と EG です。ワークブックをお持ちの方は1ページから29ページをご覧ください。それではマルコム先生、お願いします。
So welcome to the second part of this OCW course, Scientific Writing in English. And we're going to be looking at basic writing principles, a number of tips for basic writing skills. So here are the topics for today's OCW course. 4 topics, articles a and the, which are difficult for some writers, especially Japanese writers. The second topic is the apostrophe. We then go on to look at capital letters or uppercase letters, and finally the tricky IE and EG, which we will look at with some examples. So starting with articles a, the, and no article. A, the, and no article. How do we distinguish them? A precedes an idea, thing, or place of which there are many. So if you're in a lecture theatre, there might be many seats or many desks. A desk. The precedes idea, thing, or object, place, of which there are only a short list. Maybe in the same lecture theatre there will be an overhead projector, a desk for the lecturer, and maybe some other piece of equipment, a screen. So a short list. And finally, no articles are required for conceptual ideas. And we'll look at some examples of each of these 3. So consider this as an exercise in which we have to figure out whether to put a, the, or no article in the sentence. So the first example here that we're going to look at is about human pathogenic bacteria. And the sentence is, it is possible at what temperature? Between 36 and 42 degrees Celsius. Enzyme activity is subject to changes in blank. Do we put something in here? Temperature. Enzyme activity is subject to changes in temperature. And lastly, we're going to start the sentence with a blank and decide what to put in there. So blank temperature of a solution was held constant during the experiment. Let's look at the answers. For the first one, growth of human pathogenic bacteria is possible between 36 and 42 degrees Celsius. So it is a temperature. Because we have many choices here between 36 and 42. We have 36, 36.1, and so on. It's a range of temperatures, many possibilities. So we are looking at a temperature. Enzyme activity is subject to changes in temperature. Temperature here and enzyme activity here are concepts. There's no specifics in this sentence. We're talking about the concept of an enzyme activity and the concept of temperature. So we don't need the article. Enzyme activity is subject to changes in temperature. And the last one, about a solution, the key here is the solution was held constant. In other words, the temperature was the same during the entire experiment. So it is the temperature, one temperature, the only temperature that the solution was held constant and during the experiment. So the answer to that is the temperature of a solution was held constant during the experiment. Now let's move on to the apostrophe. The apostrophe has 2 major functions. One is to shorten words by omission. Omission means we leave out something. So you're familiar with don't, isn't, aren't, and all those other contractions that we use in conversational English. However, in scientific writing, we don't use the omission, and we don't include the possibility of words such as don't and isn't. The main way in which we use the apostrophe in scientific writing is to indicate an idea or thing that belongs in a broad sense. Belongs in a broad sense to somebody or something. So in this case, this example, the Earth's orbit. The orbit belongs to planet Earth. And we can think of other examples. Watson and Crick's apostrophe paper. Watson and Crick's apostrophe paper it belongs to Watson and Crick. The apostrophe and dates is often confused. A common mistake is to put an apostrophe in, such as we have here in this example. I did postdoctoral research at Kyoto University during the 1990 apostrophe S. The year 1990 doesn't belong to anything, so we don't need the apostrophe in that sense. The 1990s, let's see what they were. The 1990s were the years from 1990 to 1999, all of those years in that decade. So we simply write the 1990s like this. 1990s, no apostrophe, is a plural for all those years. It takes into consideration all those years from 1990 to 1999. Okay, so now let's look at capital letters or uppercase letters. In the past, the use of capitals was everywhere. People put capital letters unnecessarily in documents. And these days, there's much less use of capital letters in English writing. As you can see in this sentence here, only the word English has the capital letter. Everything else is lowercase. So instead of me emphasizing capital letters with capitals there, we just write the sentence and let the sentence speak for itself. However, capital letters must be used at the beginning of sentences and, of course, for people's names and place names. Capital letters are used for emphasis in titles, and that's okay, but it's not necessary. Some people like to put capital letters so that their title will get attention, but it doesn't need to be there. So look at this exercise. You're asked to rewrite this sentence correctly. And don't look at the answer yet. Look up here. You can see the very first word has a lowercase t. So obviously it's the first word of the sentence, so that's going to become uppercase T. And then we work our way through the sentence. 30 national parks, Japan, Seto Naikai, national park, and the word established. So we have a collection of upper and lower case mistakes in this sentence. And here's the answer. There must have a capital T. National parks is just a generic term, and it doesn't need the capital N or the capital P. Japan, of course, is a country, and every country must have a capital letter. The oldest national park is Seto Naikai National Park. We need a P here, and the word established doesn't need to have a capital letter. So there's a simple example of how we reduce the number of capital letters or increase the number of capital letters depending upon the mistakes. Okay, so finally let's look at the abbreviations IE and EG. IE is short for id est, which is Latin. And you can see where the est becomes is, and the first id is that. So id est, i.e., is that is. This book may be used for self-study, i.e., it does not require a teacher, but it's very helpful to have a teacher. EG is short for exemplar gratia. Again, it's Latin. Literally, it means example gratis or free. And in English, we say for example, a free example, so to speak. Here's the example for you to think about. Mechanical engineers use many types of equipment, e.g., instead of writing the word, for example, words, we use jacks, presses, pumps, milling machines. So, e.g., jacks, presses, pumps, milling machines. So, for more information on basic English writing, please refer to section 1 of the workbook. And thank you for your attention this time.
いかがでしたか？細かいポイントですが、英語で論文を書く上ではとても大切なことなので、間違いがないよう常に心がけましょう。次のパート3では、明瞭簡潔な文章を書くための方法について、マルコム先生が解説してくれます。パート3でまたお会いしましょう。
See you in the next part!